Look, have you ever met someone who felt like the most magnetic person in the room? Someone who seemed to understand you better than anyone ever had. Someone who made you feel seen, special, chosen, and then, slowly, over days or weeks or months, something shifted. You started feeling confused. You started doubting your own memory. You started walking on eggshells, wondering what you did wrong. And when it was finally over, when you finally stepped away, you were left asking yourself one question. How did I not see it coming? If that sounds familiar, you are not alone, and more importantly, you are not weak for having missed it. Because the people I am going to talk about today, they are not ordinary people. They are specifically wired to be invisible until it is already too late. Today, we are going to talk about the dark triad. 3 personality types, 3 different flavors of danger. The psychopath, the narcissist, and the Machiavellian. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to identify each one, what they want from you, how they operate, and most importantly, how to protect yourself before they destroy something you can never get back. Your trust, your confidence, your peace. This is not just a psychology lecture. This is a survival guide. So let us begin. The term dark triad was coined by psychologists Delroy, Palhus, and Kevin Williams back in 2002. They were studying personality, traits in people who were not necessarily criminals, not locked away in prisons, not obvious monsters. They were ordinary-looking people, co-workers, partners, friends, family members, people you pass at the grocery store, people you sit next to in meetings. What Palhus and Williams discovered was that 3 specific personality traits consistently appeared together in certain individuals. And when these 3 traits combined, they created a pattern of behavior that was uniquely, quietly, and devastatingly harmful to the people around them. Think about it. Most dangerous things in this world come with a warning. A hot stove is red. A broken road has signs. A dangerous animal growls. But the dark triad personalities, they smile, they compliment you. They make you feel like you finally found someone who truly gets you. That is not strange. That is psychology. Now, each personality in the dark triad is distinct. They have different motivations, different tactics, different weaknesses, but they share a common thread, a fundamental lack of genuine empathy for other people. Not the kind of empathy you fake when you're tired. A deep, structural absence of the ability to truly feel what someone else feels. And that absence, it changes everything about how they interact with the world. Let us start with the first one, the psychopath. When most people hear the word psychopath, they picture a movie villain. Someone holding a knife, laughing in the rain. But the reality is far quieter and far more dangerous. Research suggests that approximately 1% of the general population meets the criteria for psychopathy. But in corporate boardrooms and high-powered leadership positions, that number climbs to 4%, maybe higher. So the psychopath is not hiding in an alley. The psychopath might be sitting across from you in a conference room, or at a dinner table, or in a bed. So what exactly is a psychopath? Psychopathy is characterized by 3 core psychological features. The first is a profound lack of empathy and remorse. When a psychopath hurts you, they do not feel guilty about it. Not because they are suppressing the guilt, but because the guilt simply does not exist for them. The neurological circuitry that produces remorse in most human beings is, in their brains, significantly underactive or absent. Brain imaging studies have shown that psychopaths have reduced activity in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes fear, guilt, and emotional pain. What this means is that when you are in tears, when you are devastated, when you are in pain, they are watching it the way you might watch a slightly interesting documentary. With curiosity, not with care. The second feature is superficial charm and high intelligence. Here is the paradox. Psychopaths are often the most likable people in the room. They are warm, they are funny, they are charismatic, they have an extraordinary ability to read people and mirror exactly what that person needs to hear. They will tell you that you are brilliant when you need to feel smart. They will tell you that you are beautiful when you feel insecure. They will agree with your opinions, adopt your interests, and reflect your values back to you like a mirror. And it feels incredible. It feels like finally being understood. But here is the truth, that charm is a tool. It is not genuine connection. It is targeted behavior designed to lower your defenses so they can get what they want from you. The third feature is impulsivity and a parasitic lifestyle. Psychopaths are drawn to risk, to excitement, to novelty. They get bored easily. They move through people, jobs, relationships, and cities the way most people change channels. And in each new place, they find a way to take from the people around them time, money, emotional energy, resources. Sometimes all four. Now let me give you the signs. The actual, real-world signs you can observe before it is too late. The first sign is love bombing, followed by instant intimacy. A psychopath moves fast. Within days or even hours of knowing you, they will make you feel like the most important person in their universe. They tell you things like, "I have never met anyone like you." They say, "I feel like I have known you my whole life." They create an intensity that feels romantic and special. But think about it. Real connection takes time. Real trust is built slowly. Anyone who is trying to rush you into a deep, exclusive bond in the first few weeks is not experiencing genuine love. They are establishing ownership. The second sign is an absence of long-term accountability. Ask a psychopath about their past. Ask about their previous relationships. Ask about old jobs. Ask about old friends. You will notice a pattern. Everyone from their past is the villain. Every ex was crazy. Every old boss was unfair. Every old friend betrayed them. They are always the victim, always blameless, because taking real responsibility for consequences requires a conscience. And that conscience is the one thing they do not have. The third sign is a flatness, an emotional response during serious moments. Watch how they respond when something genuinely terrible happens. Not to them, to someone else. When a friend loses a parent, when a colleague gets devastating news, when a child is suffering, most people, even people who are not very emotionally expressive, will show something. A tightening of the jaw, a softness in the eyes, a quiet pause. The psychopaths will show Your performance, it will look like empathy. But underneath it, if you watch carefully, you will see a blankness. A kind of brief, almost imperceptible confusion, as if they are calculating the right response rather than feeling it. The fourth sign is rule-bending and boundary testing. Psychopaths are constitutionally incapable of respecting limits they find inconvenient. If you say no, they will negotiate. If you set a boundary, they will test it. They will push just far enough to see what they can get away with, and if you give an inch, they will take the mile. Every single time. So how do you survive a psychopath? The most important thing to understand is this. You cannot reason with someone who does not have a conscience. You cannot appeal to their guilt because there is no guilt. You cannot win an argument about their behavior because they will outmanipulate you every single time. The only winning move is early disengagement. The moment you identify these patterns, the answer is not confrontation, the answer is distance. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need closure. Closure is a concept for people who feel things. What you need is to remove yourself from their access, change what they can reach, limit what information they receive about your life, and rebuild your world in the spaces they cannot enter. Now let us move to the second personality in the dark, Triad, the narcissist. Now it is important to distinguish between someone who is confident, someone who has a healthy self-image, and a true narcissist, because narcissism exists on a spectrum. At the clinical level, what we are dealing with is narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, and research suggests it affects roughly 6 to 9% of the population. That is not a small number. That is potentially 1 in every 11 people you interact with. The narcissist's psychology is built on a paradox that is painful once you understand it. On the outside, the narcissist appears supremely confident, arrogant even. They believe they are exceptional, special, superior. They expect admiration and recognition as if it is simply owed to them. But underneath that exterior, underneath the grandiosity and the superiority, there is a fracture, a deep, hollow wound. The narcissist does not actually believe they are great. They need you to believe it. They need a constant, never-ending supply of validation, admiration, and attention to keep that fragile self-image from collapsing. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply, and without it, the narcissist deteriorates rapidly. This is the engine that drives everything they do. Every relationship a narcissist enters is not really a relationship. It is a supply chain. You are not a person to them. You are a resource. And like all resources, you will be valued only for as long as you are useful. Now here is where it gets deeply important to understand. Narcissistic relationships, almost, always follow a predictable 3-stage cycle. And knowing this cycle can save you enormous pain. The first stage is idealization, also called love bombing. In this phase, the narcissist puts you on a pedestal. You are perfect. You are the one. They cannot believe how lucky they are to have found you. They shower you with attention, compliments, gifts, and intensity. They create a version of you, an idealized version, and they fall in love with that image, not with you, with the mirror image they have constructed of you. This phase feels extraordinary. It feels like finally finding what you were always looking for, and that feeling is not a mistake. It is a strategy. The second stage is devaluation. At some point, you will inevitably do something human. You will have a bad day, you will disagree with them, you will fail to give them the level of attention they expect. You will simply exist as a real, imperfect person rather than the flawless image they constructed. And when that happens, the idealization shatters. Suddenly, everything that was perfect about you becomes a flaw. They become critical, dismissive, and cold. They may ignore you, they may rage at you, they may subtly humiliate you in public and then deny it privately. And through all of it, they will twist reality in a way that makes you feel like the problem. This is where gaslighting enters, where you start questioning your own perceptions, where you find yourself apologizing for things that were never your fault, because it is easier to believe you are broken than to accept that the person you love does not actually see you as human. The third stage is discard. When the narcissist has extracted everything of value from you, when you are no longer a sufficient source of supply, they leave. Sometimes dramatically, sometimes silently. Sometimes they replace you overnight with someone new, someone who can give them fresh, undiminished admiration. And the most painful part, they feel no grief about it. You were a function. Functions. Get replaced now. Let me give you the signs to watch for early. Before the cycle traps you, the first sign is an extreme sensitivity to criticism. A narcissist cannot tolerate feedback, no matter how gently delivered. If you point out even a small mistake, the reaction is disproportionate. They may explode in anger. They may shut down completely. They may turn the criticism back on you. And suddenly, you are the one who was wrong. Watch for this in the early stages. A person who cannot be held accountable in small moments will be impossible to hold accountable in large ones. The second sign is a pattern of one-sided conversations. Talk to a narcissist, and you will notice that the conversation consistently circles back to them. When you share a problem, they find a way to connect it to their own experience, and then their experience becomes the focus. When you share good news, there is a flicker of something, not quite jealousy, but discomfort, before they redirect to their own achievements. You will leave conversations feeling as though you were not really heard, because you were not, you were an audience. The third sign is an inability to genuinely celebrate others. Narcissists have particular difficulty with other people's success. A friend's promotion, a partner's achievement, a sibling's recognition. They will often respond with subtle undercutting. That's great, but it's not as hard as what I've been doing. Or they simply change the subject. Real love celebrates the people it loves. It takes genuine pleasure in their joy. If someone consistently dims your light, that is not a personality quirk. That is a warning. The fourth sign is the push and pull of hot and cold. One day they are warm and attentive. The next, they are distant and dismissive. You find yourself constantly trying to get back to the warm version, constantly modifying your behavior to avoid triggering the cold one. This inconsistency is not accidental. It keeps you emotionally off balance, which keeps you focused on managing them rather than evaluating whether they are treating you well. How do you survive a narcissist? First, understand this. You will never get the apology you deserve from a narcissist. You will never receive the acknowledgement that what they did was wrong. Waiting for that acknowledgement is a trap. It will keep you in the orbit of someone who cannot give you what you need. The first step to survival is accepting that the closure you are looking for must come from inside you, not from them. Second, rebuild your own sense of reality. Narcissistic abuse is specifically designed to make you doubt yourself. Journaling, therapy, trusted outside perspectives. These are not luxuries. They are tools for recalibrating your perception of what actually happened versus what you were told happened. Third, information is power. Stop sharing details of your life with a narcissist. They will use your vulnerabilities against you. Every fear you confide, every insecurity you expose, every soft place in your heart that you reveal to them becomes potential ammunition. Protect what is vulnerable, and fourth, create distance without drama. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. If you leave in an explosive confrontation, you feed them. The most powerful thing you can do is to withdraw quietly, consistently, and completely. Starve the supply. That, more than anything, communicates to the narcissist that you are done. Now we come to the third personality in the dark triad, the Machiavellian. The name comes from Niccolo Machiavelli, the 15th century Italian political philosopher, who wrote The Prince, a treatise on power that advised rulers to use deception, manipulation, and strategic cruelty to maintain control. His philosophy, stripped to its core, was simple. The ends justify the means. If you need to lie to win, lie. If you need to betray to survive, betray. Morality is not a principle. It is a performance. And the Machiavellian personality takes this philosophy and applies it to every relationship in their life. What separates the Machiavellian from the psychopath and the narcissist is primarily calculation. The psychopath acts on impulse and excitement. The narcissist acts on wounded pride and the need for admiration. But the Machiavellian, they plan, they think 3 moves ahead. They see every relationship as a chessboard and every person as a piece to be moved strategically toward their desired outcome. They are patient in a way the others are not. They will play a long game. They will be kind and helpful and supportive for months, even years, if it positions them favorably for something they want later. Think about it. The most dangerous manipulation is not the kind you can see. It is the kind that looks like friendship. The Machiavellian's core psychological feature is a cynical worldview. At the deepest level, they genuinely believe that all human beings are fundamentally selfish, that everyone is always playing an angle, that generosity is always strategic, that kindness is always transactional. And because they believe this about everyone else, they feel completely justified in being manipulative themselves. In their mind, they are not doing anything wrong. They are just playing the game that everyone else is too naive to admit they're playing. This worldview makes them extraordinarily effective at reading people, because they are always watching for the hidden agenda. They become very good at spotting other people's desires, fears, and insecurities. And once they have that information, they use it. Asterisks are what are the signs of a Machiavellian. The first sign is an intense focus on gathering information about others, while revealing very little themselves. Have you ever had a conversation with Someone who asked you deeply personal questions, who seemed genuinely interested in your fears, your ambitions, your past, but who, when you asked them about themselves, gave you only vague or carefully curated answers. The Machiavellian is a master information broker. They know things about everyone around them. They share almost nothing real about themselves, because information is currency, and they never spend currency without a return. The second sign is the Machiavellian is not genuine with their compliments. They compliment you when they need something. They praise you when they want you on their side. They make you feel valued specifically at the moments when you are most useful to their goals. And if you compare how they treat you when you are, you will see the inconsistency clearly. Asterisk, the third sign, is triangulation and coalition building. Machiavellians are expert at managing relationships in groups. They will often engineer situations where different people have different, conflicting information about the same events. They manage what each person believes about them. They build alliances selectively, positioning themselves as indispensable to multiple parties simultaneously. In workplaces, they are often the person everyone seems to like, but who somehow always comes out on top in political situations. And when things go wrong, somehow it is never their fault, and somehow someone else always takes the fall. Asterisk, the fourth sign, is a cold pragmatism about relationships. Ask a Machiavellian what they think about loyalty, about friendship, about love. If they are honest, and they rarely are, their answers will reveal that they see these things as tools rather than values. They will have calculated views about. They will talk about people in terms of what they can offer. The moment that relationship is no longer serving their strategic interests, the Machiavellian does not get angry and explode. That would reveal their hand. Instead, they remember. They file away every slight, every embarrassment, every moment when someone had power over them. And they wait. They wait for the right moment, the right leverage, the right situation. And then they act. And by that point, you may not even connect their action to whatever happened between you a year ago. How do you survive a Machiavellian? The most important thing is to control your information. Do not share your fears, your vulnerabilities, your ambitions, or your secrets with someone who fits this profile. What you share with a Machiavellian is what they will eventually use against you. Protect your inner world. Second, watch behavior over time, not in the moment. The Machiavellian is patient. Their true nature is revealed not in single interactions, but in patterns across months and years. Ask yourself, when this person has had the choice between doing right by someone and getting ahead, what have they consistently chosen? The Machiavellian's power comes from being uniquely positioned between different people and different groups. The antidote is to have direct, honest relationships with the people around you, relationships that do not pass through the Machiavellian. When you have your own genuine connections, you are far less vulnerable to their control of narrative. And finally, never let them know that you see them. This is critical. The Machiavellian who knows you have identified them is far more dangerous than the one who believes their mask is still in place. Do not confront. Do not accuse. Strategically distance yourself while maintaining a neutrality. Become boring to them. Become uninteresting. Become someone who offers no useful information and no valuable position. They will move their attention elsewhere. Now here is something that most videos on this topic do not address, and it is arguably the most important part of this entire conversation. Why do we fall for these people? Why do people who are otherwise intelligent, otherwise perceptive, otherwise confident, why do they get drawn in by dark triad personalities again and again? The answer is neurological before it is psychological. Human beings are not designed to detect sophistication social predators. We evolved in small, stable communities where deep deception was difficult to sustain over time. Everyone knew everyone. Reputations were public. Social consequences for manipulation were immediate. But the dark triad personalities are specialists. At the modern context, where you meet strangers constantly, where there is no shared community to check a person's history, where first impressions matter enormously, and where the performance of emotional warmth can substitute indefinitely for the real thing, when you meet someone who radiates charm, who seems to understand you, who creates that powerful feeling of being seen and chosen, your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. These are neurochemicals associated with bonding, pleasure, and reward. You are literally, biologically, experiencing a high, and just like any high, once you are in it, your ability to critically evaluate the source of that high is dramatically reduced. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational analysis and risk assessment, gets partially overridden by your limbic system, the emotional, reward-seeking part of your brain. You feel before you think, and by the time you begin to think clearly, you are already attached. This is not weakness. This is biology. And the dark triad personalities did not create this vulnerability in you. They simply learned to exploit their one that was always there. But here is what makes the situation even more complex. Many people who attract dark triad personalities share certain traits, not because they are broken or weak, but because the very traits that make someone a good, empathic, loving human being are also the traits that make them maximally useful as targets. High empathy makes you responsive to emotional manipulation. A strong desire for connection makes you vulnerable to love bombing. A tendency towards self-doubt makes you susceptible to gaslighting. Loyalty makes you stay past the point where you... These are virtues that are being weaponized against you. Understanding this matters, not because it takes away your responsibility to recognize these patterns and protect yourself, but because it removes the self-blame. You are not stupid, you are human, and there is a profound difference. Now let us talk about the overlap, because while these psychopaths, the narcissist, and the Machiavellian are distinct personality types, they are not mutually exclusive. A single individual can possess traits from all three. In fact, the research shows that these three traits are positively correlated. Where you find one, you often find elements of the others. Asterisk, think about it this way. The narcissist needs attention. The psychopath enjoys the game of manipulation without remorse. The Machiavellian plans the strategy. When all three exist in the same person, what you get is someone who desperately needs to be worshipped, feels nothing when they cause pain, and is systematically planning every move. That combination, that overlap, is what the researchers call the full dark Triad profile. And it is, without question, the most dangerous interpersonal situation a person can find themselves in. These individuals do not just hurt you, they restructure your reality. They rewrite your memories. They isolate you from the people who might help you see clearly. They build a world with themselves at the center and you orbiting around them, never quite sure which way is up. So how do you protect yourself going forward? The first principle is this: trust the pattern, not the performance. Anyone can have a good day. Anyone can be charming for an hour. What you are looking for is consistency over time. Does this person treat everyone with the same respect they show you? Do they maintain their kindness when there is nothing to gain? Do their actions consistently match their words? The performance is how they want to be seen. The pattern is who they actually are. Trust the pattern. Asterisk, the second principle is to pay attention to how someone makes you feel about yourself. Not in the first exciting days. Over time, a genuinely good person in your life should make you feel more like yourself, more secure, more capable, more loved. If, over time, you find that a person consistently makes you feel less confident, less worthy, less clear about your own reality, that is not a coincidence. That is an outcome, and that outcome reveals intent. The third principle is to maintain your outside connections. Dark triad personalities often, either deliberately or instinctively, work to isolate their targets from other relationships. They may criticize your friends. They may create conflict between you and your family. They may demand so much of your time and attention that other relationships naturally wither. Recognizing this pattern early and consciously protecting your other relationships is one of the most powerful forms of self-defense available to you. Asterisk. The fourth principle is to listen to your body. Your nervous system knows things your conscious mind has not yet processed. When you feel that persistent low-grade anxiety around someone, when your stomach tightens before a conversation, when you feel a vague, uncomfortable sensation that something is wrong even though you cannot name it, that is not paranoia. That is data. Your body is registering inconsistencies between what you are being told and what is actually happening. Do not dismiss it. The fifth principle is to rebuild your relationship with your own perception. One of the most lasting damages that dark triad encounters leave behind is a deep distrust of one's own judgment. Because you were told repeatedly that what you saw was not real, that what you felt was wrong, that your instincts were unreliable. Rebuilding that trust takes time, and it often requires help. Therapy, honest friendships, honest reflection, but it is the most important work you can do, because your perception is your foundation. Without it, you cannot protect yourself from anything. Asterisk. And the sixth principle, the one that underlies all the others, is this: you are allowed to protect yourself. You do not need to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt before you step back from a relationship. You do not need to diagnose someone before you decide they are not good for you. You do not need to justify your discomfort to anyone. You are allowed to trust your own experience. You are allowed to choose safety. You are allowed to walk away. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought.
We talk about the dark triad as if it exists somewhere out there, in other people, in strangers, in the ones who hurt us. And it does. But understanding the dark triad is not just about identifying others. It is about understanding yourself, about understanding why you connect the way you do, about understanding the places in you that needed what they offered, the longing for intensity, the hunger for certainty, the deep desire to be truly seen. These are not weaknesses to be ashamed of. They are the most human things about you. The goal is not to become cold, to become suspicious, to build walls so high that nothing real can ever get in. The goal is to become clear, to learn the difference between depth and manipulation, between real warmth and strategic charm, between a person who chooses you freely and a person who chose you for what they could extract. Because the most powerful thing you can do is not to avoid all connection. It is to become so grounded in your own reality, so secure in your own perception, so rooted in your own worth, that the people who seek to manipulate you simply cannot find a foothold. Real love does not shake you. It does not confuse you. It does not require you to constantly earn it. Real love is the one thing the dark triad can never give you. And knowing that is not loss. Knowing that is freedom. Because the strongest position in life is not needing someone to define you. It is knowing yourself so completely that no one can rewrite who you are. That is the antidote to the dark triad. That is the psychology.